In 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the acclaimed podcast, The Deep Dive, featuring your esteemed hosts, Andy Monitor and Drew Dinzik, powered by BetSperts.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. We are excited today because we get to talk to one of our favorite people in the betting space. Hands down, one of the most interesting and fun people to chat with. Returning again to Handicap Championship weekend. All around good guy, raconteur, senior NFL blogger.
NFL writer now.
Senior NFL writer. Ooh, baby. Ooh, man. Welcome to the Deep Dive, Mr. Will Brinson. Welcome back. Hope you're doing well. How is everything going in the great state of North Carolina?
It's awesome. Thanks for having me on. I think, Drew, you did my pod before the season. Andy said he had like contractual obligations that wouldn't allow him to do it.
I was like in Yellowstone. Yeah. It was like no service. And the timing you wanted me to do, I'm like, God, my wife wants to do X, Y, and Z tomorrow. I'm like, well, I could tell her we could just start our vacation tomorrow, like 6 hours late. And I could do it from the hotel room. And I'm like, fuck, I'm in trouble either way. I'm like, another time, Will. I
wasn't offended at all. I was happy. We'll do it again in the off season. Did we talk this off season or was the last time last week?
Yeah, it was on the 9th of the
somewhere.
It was last time we had you on. It was last time we had you on. It was on the eve of the AFC NFC title games. We handicapped. I think we handicapped. We said we liked four sides. We liked two sides and two totals. I'm pretty sure we were 4-0, and I don't think it was close. I think that was one of the more slam dunk weekends I can remember in the NFL playoffs as an adult. So I was pretty fired up. And
was it? Yeah, it was championship weekend last year.
Yeah,
I've talked about that numerous times already. Like the Niners -7, it felt right.
Yeah. It was we like the over and the Chiefs.
Yeah,
and then we like the 49ers and the
49ers, which is 49ers every which way you could bet them. First quarter, first half, full game, alt spreads. It was as much as you could get down on the Niners.
That was fun.
Yeah, it was a great weekend all around. And so looking to recapture the karma, bring another winning weekend home. I don't know if we align 100%. I tried to listen to a couple things, and I didn't get a sense that you're totally decided on where you land yet. So I'm not sure if we're rowing the boat in the same direction just yet.
Then you did that's excellent listening comprehension. I know on the NFC side, I feel pretty confident. And then
I'm moving. The needle continues to move for me. I'm getting to where I feel pretty strongly about the side total. But we'll get there before we get there. It's
almost like you're distracted this week, Will. Is there some news that's been bothering you today? Someone important lose their job today?
9:30 this morning. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Well, I guess speaking of that, number one, I'm kind of curious, how was your season overall? You've been doing this for many years, truly a pioneer in sort of the gambling media space. So always, interested to hear another season in the books. What have we learned? What are your thoughts? Reflections on the macro sense about the NFL. As I kind of sit back and look, it was like, man, this might have been secretly one of the better years we've ever had. COVID fan stuff aside, they were great teams, and they all made the playoffs, and there were great quarterback performances. Everyone stayed relatively healthy. And, we're sitting here now listening to these retirement speeches from guys like Drew Brees and Phillip Rivers. They've been in our lives for decades here. This is wild that these guys are now retiring.
College with Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
Phillip Rivers.
Yes.
That was kind of the weird thing today. It was it wasn't even a reflection of, on the river. First of all, I would say, I think you're right, Drew. It's been a hard season to grasp, but we saw a bunch of the Bills took this huge leap forward and dethroned the Patriots. And then won the division, and then delivered a message in the final 2 weeks of the season to the Patriots and to the Dolphins. This is our division. We own this division now. We are here to stay. And they've been continuing to win in the playoffs. And I've been continuing to fade them for some idiotic reason. We'll get to that in a minute. But, that happened. The Browns kind of arrived. The Browns and the Bills were great. This was the hope of all the dog shit stuff that happened in 2020 for the Browns and the Bills to sort of emerge like Andy Dufresne after crawling through, the tunnel full of shit or whatever it is. And then you pop out on the other side clean as a whistle. And suddenly we're into the divisional round and the Bills and the Browns are there. I mean, that's like, as a fan of NC State, as a long suffering sports fan whose last title, I mean, if you don't count like a Gator Bowl victory, I mean, like 95 Braves for me.
Oh, Carolina Hurricanes, 2006, man.
Yeah, the Canes,
Stanley Cup champions. Oh, my goodness.
Wait,
there's some big South championships.
It was like
the Carolina teams.
I can tell you for sure. I'm going to look it up right now. But it's like
we can't just count NC State.
Anyway,
I don't know. Drew's thing. And your thing last year, and I don't even know if this was last year, because again, I can't keep time straight. We couldn't even remember when we had you on. But this was a Drew worry. And sometimes, you get tinfoil Drew, and sometimes you get worried, depressed Drew. And it was worried, depressed Drew. And maybe it was like 2 years ago where it was a lot of these quarterbacks were getting older. And you were saying that, like, oh, Brady's getting old, and Breeze is getting old, and Rivers, and even Rodgers. And you were worried about you called it a quarterback drought. In fact, I think you might have coined a phrase there. I mean, I think we can all kind of agree. I feel better because then you freak me out. You like incept the freak out in me. I'm like, God, if we don't have like another new crop that takes over, like, are we going to end up in some weird situation where there's just like one or two great quarterbacks and then, no middle class? But I think like what Will said about, the rise of the Bills, how the Browns played this year, Mayfield playing better, what Lamar has done over the past few years, and obviously Patty. Like it feels like there's a new crop, and I don't feel it. And our guy out in LA, Justin Herbert, like at Burrow when he comes back, like I feel better about that now. Like I think it always fixes itself, and maybe we shouldn't worry. But you did freak me out, and I think that's where I'm at right now with the NFL. Like I feel better about the future of it as far as a quarterback standpoint, at least.
Well, I mean, look at the awesome dichotomy we have this weekend between it's Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes battling for an opportunity as the future stars of this league. I mean, if you were picking two MVP candidates who are under 25 years old, it would be those guys, obviously. And in fact, Pete Prisco blew my mind with this stat. This is the first time since 1991 there have been two quarterbacks 25 years or younger in the same championship game. I couldn't believe that.
Wow.
Isn't that insane? Like, and I haven't done like a deep, pun intended, deep dive fact check on this guy.
Sure.
Pete, but it was like, it's like Doug Williams and Ferragamo for the Lions, maybe.
Oh my God! Wow!
How that's
wow.
But, I mean, like if you think about it, it makes sense because Brady and Manning, and Roethlisberger. I mean, Big Ben was over 25 pretty quickly after he got into the league. Peyton Manning was too. I mean, those guys were older. Brady as well by the time he was starting. So it makes sense that and Flacco, the way these guys have dominated those games that you almost really haven't had anybody young pop up. Russell Wilson was even like 23 when he came in the league.
Sure.
So Aaron Rodgers sat for 2 years, so it goes on and on. So that stat blew my mind. But then on the other side, those guys are basically battling to play Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. And, I think there's more at stake for Rodgers because,
for sure.
You got to get the second one, but like Brady wins a Super Bowl in his first year with the Bucs and Belichick misses the playoffs. I'm not saying it affects Bill Belichick's legacy, but like people will at least have think pieces, like just like firing up the think piece machine.
Oh yeah.
Reason to question it.
Oh, Brady gets 7 championships. That puts him one ahead of Jordan. That column's already hot in some of these drafts. That's somebody's ready to fire that out. Yeah, for sure. But the points, and what else is cool?
Thinking about like a segment on Brady.
Brady Jordan, who's better? Who's the actual goat across all sports?
Cross sport. Sorry, Ferragamo was the Rams.
Yeah. Even just across these 4 teams, right? Like if they did MVP voting where they did it like the Heisman and you got to rank choice or whatever, or like the MVP in the NBA where lots of guys get votes, like these would be your top 4 vote getters. Mahomes, Allen, Rodgers, and Brady would be the top 4 vote getters, which is wild. And here they all are. So we're in store for a very entertaining weekend. Of football,
and it's not even like the full chalk either. It's mostly chalk, but the Bucs are a 5 seed.
Yeah. That's true. But I guess, I don't know, to Andy's point, I was worried about like a quarterback drought, because if Baker doesn't make it, if he doesn't turn into a good, if he doesn't deliver on number 1 overall for that franchise after what they've been through, if Burrow gets, and it remains to be seen what the franchise, the Bengals as a franchise does to Burrow. I'm still nervous for sure.
I'm excited to see how he does with this next team.
Yeah. Well, and then, and Josh Allen for sure was the prospect, and we'll get to the Bills and Josh Allen more later when we talk that game, but that wasn't guaranteed.
Justin Herbert just had an epic rookie season, and they're changing everything around him.
Yeah. And our best Chargers friend was literally, had to drink himself to sleep the night they drafted Herbert, because he was so sure he was not going to pan out, and he looked amazing this year.
That's how bad we all are.
Things are all kind of things are all kind of breaking.
We have no idea what we have in Tua yet. We were very out on Baker Mayfield at certain points over the past couple of years. Obviously, we were super out on Josh Allen his first year. The Lamar thing when he was cold at the beginning of this season, we're like, shit, was it a flash in the pan? With some of the injuries we've seen. So you never know with quarterbacks. The only thing I know for sure about quarterbacks is that I don't know shit when it comes to a college quarterback transitioning to a pro. I was a big Josh Rosen guy.
Are you Will? Yeah, Will, are you ready to see these older guys kind of matriculate out of the league? Drew Brees, we're pretty sure he's done. First ballot Hall of Famer, top 5 of the last 20 years. Would you say?
Yeah. With that, I think you can almost argue Brees is a little underrated. That got kind of squashed thanks to ESPN showing every record he breaks on Monday Night Football.
That's a good point.
And
remember that laminated sheet he got?
Yeah. Look, we to his children in the middle of the stadium. It's like there's a TV football game going on. Like, what are you doing? This is ridiculous. Brees had to go. I think he still hadn't announced it officially, but I think he needs to go. He looked washed, and I almost wonder. So Rivers, obviously, I'm not happy about that. I thought he had 1 more year left in him for sure. I think it's interesting because I think the Colts would have had him back.
Yeah, I would have thought so too.
And I think that the timing of this shows you that it was Rivers' call and not the Colts. Because this is what you do if you respect the team. You announce it early. You be like, I'm done with it. You guys go worry about what you got to worry about. Deal with your own stuff. I think a couple of factors played into Rivers. One, he said he's going to go into high school coaching. His dad coached high school football.
What a fit.
25 years.
Yeah. Born for it.
What's that?
He's born for it.
Oh, yeah. Boy, so his dad moved to Raleigh when Phil came to State, and his dad coached at Wakefield while Rivers was playing at State. So that way he could watch his son play. And then they moved out to San Diego and he coached college football, or maybe he quit then and they followed him around and watched all his games. I think that Rivers wants to be the coach of, this is kind of a crazy theory, but it makes sense. I think he wants to be the coach of this football team, this high school football team, for a year before his son, who's going into 8th grade, comes onto the team. So he doesn't show up and be like, here's my son. He's the starting quarterback. Let's go. But I feel like that's the kind of guy Phil Rivers is.
Slam dunk. Absolutely correct.
So
I like what you said too about giving the team notice, especially of all this is like dating the girl who got dumped at the prom in front of everybody. You do have to have a delicate touch after not like Andrew Luck was a bad person or a bad person for what he did.
Oh, right. I see what you're saying.
What that franchise had been through with that happening that late. We had already done a season preview for the AFC South. I remember we did it the week before, and I was eating at a restaurant when that happened. I'm like, shit. Well, everything we said was stupid now. It was August.
Schefter even told the story about how he was out at his mother-in-law's birthday party, 60th birthday, 70th birthday party, or whatever it was. And he gets this text hey, are you around? He's like, well, not really. You need to, you're going to want this one.
You're going to want to be around.
You're going to want this scoop. Yeah, and so I think, and the other thing about Rivers is kind of interesting is, today is January 20th, which is St. Stephenson's Day or something Catholic.
Of course.
Right.
Obviously.
It's also the 13th anniversary of when he played in the AFC Championship game with a torn ACL.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Wow. Cool.
And after that game, his mother
won that game.
Yeah, well, undefeated Patriots, and he almost loses by 9 with anyway, his mother gave him like a coin of the saint. It's some big day for Catholics, and I don't know what it is. So apologies to all Catholics. And he also played exactly 17 years in the NFL, which is a number that he wore his entire career. So I sort of think that I think he saw the symmetry. I think he knew, like, if you're Phillip Rivers, you had to have been at peace with the idea that you might have to retire without winning a Super Bowl at this point. Oh,
of course. Especially you look around the AFC, you're going to have to get by this, this
years it was Manning and Brady, and now it's like, it's not like, oh, they're gone. And it goes back to what we said about the new crop. It's like, oh, now it's Mayfield, it's Lamar, it's, Patrick, and all these guys that are coming up. And so truthfully, Indy has a good roster. They're still set up all right.
I know you said not to address people in the chat, but Casey Brown said, Rivers Hall of Fame, save me your ads. I'm with you 100%. I think he's a lock. I think he should be a lock. I don't know that he is a lock. He also, like, 4 of his playoff, people rip the playoff losses. 4 of them are to 3 are to Belichick, and 1 is to, like, Peyton Manning. I mean, it was the hardest time. One's to Roethlisberger. It was the hardest time possible to make it through the playoffs. And while he had good players around him for sure, he had a crap offensive line from 2007 on. Mm-hmm. And the Chargers are a bad organization that put bad stuff around him, even sometimes when they would accidentally draft a Keenan Allen or a Hunter Henry. And so I don't know, man.
I think he consistently. Well, they had good regular season coach in Schottenheimer. He just couldn't coach his way out of the playoffs. But they were only together for 1 year. But that was the year they went 14-2, and they fired Schottenheimer because he lost because Marlon McCree intercepted and then fumbled the ball and gave the Patriots the ball back with just one of the most bizarre, stupidest games you ever want to see in your life. But I think personally that Rivers played at a higher level more consistently over the duration of his career than the likes of Eli Manning. Eli Manning is going to get stronger consideration because he has 2 Super Bowls, but he luck boxed his way into both of those.
No, I agree with you. That's my whole argument too. The interesting thing for me on the Hall of Fame thing is so Eli retired a year before Rivers, obviously.
Sure.
When you look at the way that these quarterbacks are going to work, let's say Breeze retires this year too. We're assuming that's going to happen.
Also wild symmetry because they were both on the roster together at San Diego. Yeah. But go ahead.
Yeah. But so the Hall of Fame committee put Rivers in at the same time as Breeze because I don't think they will. They held off of Kurt Warner for a year out of deference to Brett Favre, basically, which is kind of stupid, but whatever. And then you have the issue of, okay, let's say they don't put Rivers in with Breeze. What happens if Big Ben retires after next year?
Or Brady.
And Rodgers and Brady start retiring. Does this?
You got a stupid logjam.
You know what though?
I think everybody. Obviously, a lot of them are shoo-ins, but everybody we've named is getting in.
Yeah. So fourth ballot, third ballot, fourth ballot. No big deal.
Like Big Ben's probably the worst quarterback out of all of those. Yeah. But he has the championships. He has the, he has the pedigree. He's had the career. Eli, you can say what he wants, but he won 2 championships, and they were so iconic over just such great teams. Even if it was a little lucky run, like the unforgettable championships, and then just Rivers is probably a better quarterback than Breeze. Just you can say longevity, but like I don't really. And maybe it's because I was a Vikings fan 10 years ago. But I mean, you won a championship on the back of a dirty defense.
Ooh,
I mean, there were some very good Saints teams. I think they had better Saints teams than the team that won the champion.
If you put and this is what I mean, and I know this doesn't work in the argument, but it's like if you put Rivers on the Steelers and Ben on the Chargers,
I
don't think Ben wins any championships, and I think Rivers probably wins 2.
Maybe 3.
Rivers on the Giants. Look, I don't know if Rivers wins anything with the Giants just because like Eli was clutch as hell late. Like he went full Flacco twice. And but I think
That's a good way to put it.
if the Chargers decide to keep Breeze and kick Rivers to the curb, and the Saints sign Rivers, like Sean Payton annihilates. Like Rivers' numbers are insane. He's a first pass. Like he's a. So I mean, I think, and this goes back to sort of you can tie it back into the draft quarterbacks and why we don't know shit about them, because it matters where you go. Like you have to land in a spot.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, it's like what we said about Cincinnati. Cincinnati's bad ownership. It's not a team that's excited about bringing a championship to the city. It's a business. Yeah. And it's like it sucked because Joe Burrow, we were so excited that we'd never seen a season quite like that in college, and then you knew like, man, he's gonna land in like it's kind of a bad situation. Not only do they not have an offensive line right now, and we saw how that fleshed out, but it's a bad ownership group. Like it's not a team that's in it to win championships and excited about owning a football team. It's just a revenue stream for him. So that's why I kind of hope it sucks because if he does well, then you do his 5th year and then he's there at least 5 and then you got a whole thing. It could end up being like the Kirk Cousins thing where then he gets tagged and we have this whole mess. Sure. So I'm hoping for better things for him, but who knows?
Well, random question for you, Will. I know you always seem to know this stuff better than I do. Is there a chance that Ben's done, not because he decides he's done, but because of the salary cap issues next year?
I think what would happen if Ben is done, I think it has to be on his own accord based on the numbers.
Okay.
Because in my opinion, Ben is the type of guy who, if you go to him and you're like, you
don't want to be stuck in a bathroom with?
Well, yeah, Jesus now.
Okay.
Yeah, could he possibly?
Because he's going to destroy the toilet. You don't want to be in there. Yeah, it's going to be awful.
You guys have any of those friends who went like a hard right turn to Jesus in their like late 30s? And it's very hard.
Not that I keep in touch with.
I have a buddy who's like, "Yeah, is that my Bible study?" It's like, what are you talking about? Like, I was out with you like last Saturday. Like, I know what you were doing. But with Ben, I think if the Steelers came to him and said, "Okay, we got to figure, we need you to go, look, Phil walked away, maybe you can walk away, and we got to reboot this thing because the salary kept squeezing up." And it's like, nah, I don't think so. You're going to pay me. and then it's almost more worth it for the Steelers to just play him one more year, draft and develop somebody else, and then sort of figure it out. I think that's probably the play. I was a little surprised that Rivers didn't come back or the Colts didn't try to get him to come back because
the dollars would have worked, right?
I mean, they had Jacob Eason, and so now they have to decide: do we trade for Sam Darnold? Do we try to trade for Matthew Stafford? Or is this win thing real? That's a tough spot to be in if you're a team that like the Colts with that good of a roster.
Yeah, I'm all for 7 years of Frank Reich as a head coach with 7 different starting quarterbacks for the Colts. It seems like that's where we're headed, right?
It sucks what it would cost, and I just don't think it's possible. And also, it's tricky because it's the same division. But Christ Almighty,
yeah,
put Deshaun Watson on that team behind that line. Nobody talks about Hilton as like an elite receiver just because of what we've had the few years, but they have a couple young guys too. They have decent receiving options. Like they're a decent quarterback away from being in Buffalo's spot this weekend.
Yeah.
I agree with it. Yeah, or for Frank Reich, a couple goal line calls by Frank Reich. Whatever.
Yeah, a little more aggressiveness in the first half, and they probably win. Yeah,
I think. I mean, if somebody offers the Texans 3 first-round picks, are they taking it? I mean,
see, this is the thing.
3 more than they have right now.
Yes, it is. There's not an obvious good. You're not going to get 100 cents in the dollar for him if you're the Texans, and I don't know that you're going to be able to mend that bridge, even if you hire Eric Bieniemy. It seems like the ship has sailed, and I almost think, and if I'm the Texans, if I'm, and granted, like you want to talk about bad owners, like. Fish rots from the head in a lot of respects, and I do not understand what the direction of the franchise is, and I don't even know that the current ownership group really cares about football all that much. But if they did care a lot and they had good people in place, then they probably would want to move Watson just because he's good enough to keep you from being able to draft a rebuilding, around him. He's going to get you 7-8 wins a season, even if you have, a first percentile roster at every other position. So you're kind of hamstrung if you keep him. You're not going to get more than 80 cents on the dollar for him if you trade him. So I don't know. They probably got to pull the trigger. I just don't know. If you had to guess right now, what do you think? Will, is he going to come back with the Texans, or has some other team got the right package?
I mean, we had JLC on earlier this week on the pod. He was like, he thinks it's overblown. Like the idea that he's taking his last snap or whatever it is.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think he's wrong. I think if they hire the JLC's process is that he thinks that the Texans will hire Leslie Frazier, who then will come in and be like this voice that sort of calms everything down for Deshaun Watson. He's an African-American or black coach, I guess. Black coach, older, respected voice. Deshaun Watson has made it kind of clear what he wants them to hire. If they hire Brian Daboll, then Watson's like, that's it, I'm out of here. And not because he doesn't like Brian Daboll, just because he doesn't want to be in this Patriots drama cocoon.
Sure.
But maybe if they can hire somebody like a Leslie Frazier, or if he loves Eric Bieniemy, that they can figure out a way to patch this up. Now, I've also heard that it's all Cal McNair that he's bothered by, and not, now it's like,
it's kind of hard to get rid of Cal McNair at this point.
Cal McNair is a real bozo, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, he lied to him. It seems pretty straightforward.
That's what sucks. And like, who knows if we're getting the straight story, but it is such a goofy spot where they have to, it's going to come down to if the franchise realizes where they're at, if it's truly, if the relationship is where the media says it's at, they have to realize, like, we can get a lot for this guy because he's a top 5 quarterback at times, probably, but also everybody else has the internet and they know where this is at. Like, if we're going to try to force 95 cents on the dollar, like, nobody's going to bite because he's worth 4 first rounders, probably. When it comes down to it, to get a top end quarterback, it's worth a lot. So they, I think if they're realistic, which I'm putting that ownership group, that management group in the same sentence as the word realistic, which kind of hurts, but if they come to their senses and I think there's a few teams that could probably make a deal because it's becoming painfully apparent how important the top end quarterback is. Just look at the games we're going to look at this weekend.
Yeah. You got 4 MVP quarterbacks.
Yeah.
The Jets make a world of sense. I mean, almost too much sense. Like, get the number 2 pick, get Sam Darnold, get him to throw Sam Darnold in. Like, you're getting, like, I'm still high on Sam Darnold relative to, I think, the overall perception, just because he's been gaced for so many years now. You don't have to get Mekhi Becton or, Quinnen Williams. You just get Darnold and 2 or 3 picks. And you have to figure that pick next year for the Jets. I don't know how good, like, maybe Robert Saleh, I don't think he turns him into a playoff team next year. Maybe he does with Deshaun Watson, but I just don't know that they have enough, and the Bills look good and the Dolphins look good and Belichick's still there. So
the AFC's tough.
What's that?
Yeah, the AFC is just tough. It'd be, you could be like a top 8, 9, 10 team, but maybe in the conversation for a playoff position late in the season. And that'd be exciting as a Jets fan, I suppose.
Sure. But I'm saying, like, you can get the number 2 pick this year, which means that you can grab Penei Sewell if you want, or you trade the number 2 pick for a bunch of other picks and somebody comes up against Justin Fields or Trey Lance or Zach Wilson, whoever it is that they want. And then you have Sam Darnold, next year's Jets first round pick. And then you trade this year's second overall pick for a bunch of picks. I mean, if I'm the Texans, I at least consider that, because what if whoever you bring in likes Sam Darnold and thinks they can flip him around, and then all of a sudden you have all these pieces to kind of fix up your roster. It's not a crazy idea.
It's not, and it's, that if you can get the number 2 overall, then you're at least in a lot better shape in terms of,
you can trade it to the Dolphins
value. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I don't think Leslie Frazier's a bad pick either. I think there's so many people that just didn't get good shakes in Minnesota. And I think he had a bad situation. So I think he could do it.
He was like cleaning up Favre's mess, which in out of context sounds disgusting.
There's a crock and all that stuff all over it.
Sticky crock. You're like, I don't know.
Oh, God. Lord. Sticky. At this point, Will has invented the word "gaced" and said a sticky crock. So,
well, Tannehill got gased, and it turns out he is a clear top 10 quarterback in this league.
That your MVP bet wasn't even that crazy.
It wasn't. They needed to win more games. He would have been in the conversation. Yeah,
it was a bad year to look for a sleeper MVP. Although I guess Rodgers was wasn't he like 25-1?
He was in the 10 to 15-1 ballpark.
15, I think you could have found maybe.
Yeah. But I mean, shoot, in terms of the storylines this year, I mean, right there, like, and all of the great things that we got to watch this year, all of the emergence of all of these new quarterbacks, what better storyline than Rodgers, who had been underachieving for 4 years? They go out and draft his replacement in a player that is a true project. They refuse to get him more help in the most wide receiver rich draft of our lifetimes. They did not get him more help. They got him AJ Dillon, and for whatever reason, apparently
he's practicing. He practiced today.
For what AJ Dillon did? Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, for whatever reason, whether that inspired him to take his game to a new level or bring his game back to the level that we were so used to seeing through the early 2010s, or whether it was something else about the way LaFleur is calling this, this offense and really just managing this team, or just the perfect confluence of they had an easy division, they had an easy schedule. Rodgers, and Devontae Adams is starting to peak in terms of his ceiling, which is exceptionally high, and the results were just it was a perfect storm, and he played clearly at an MVP level, clearly, and
it's been such a mystery why, and like
yes.
There's a lot of media I will skip because it's all the same stuff, but I have been consuming anything that people have put out over the last few weeks that has been like, here's why I think Aaron Rodgers is like playing better this year. And I mean, that as many things as I've seen, there's as many theories. Like I don't think anyone really knows. There's a bunch of cute theories, but I mean, some of the only one I could really buy into is the buy-in. Like he's bought in a little more to LaFleur's system. They're working together to, actually take advantage of the pieces that they have. And really maybe that's why we've seen Devonta just be so good. Like first touchdown scorer every game, just skip every other bet. Just bet him to be the first touchdown scorer. Bet him, 5-1 again. Packers touchdown scorer, just in case the other team gets the ball, and then go collect your money after like 3 minutes.
So on that, I think one, I don't buy anybody who says that the Jordan Love pick didn't at least ratchet up Rodgers a little bit. Like the whole narrative for Aaron Rodgers for the first 10 years of his career was that he has this massive chip on his shoulder because of a humiliating draft day experience. So you think that's all anybody talked about. Like, oh, Rodgers, like he gets these chips on his shoulder and he wants to come for blood against teams that spited him or teams. It's like, you think he's not mad about the Jordan Love thing? Like he literally came out and said, I was pretty bothered and surprised by it. Of course he's mad about it. So I've got like a loose hair in my face.
Have you ever seen footage of that from draft day when he was waiting?
Yeah.
That's my favorite. Like, we remember, guys.
Yeah. Awful haircut for Rodgers back then.
Oh yeah.
Not that any of us had good haircuts in 2007 or whatever.
Yeah. His agent and his PR team did him no favors that day.
No. But then, so the other thing too, I think Andy said it, it's like playing in the structure of the offense. I think he really did buy in. And I think this is where we got fooled, is that last year we thought he was going to buy in from the get-go into LaFleur's system and let it work for him. And I don't think he ever got there fully over the course of the season. I think, they had a good season, but he had just these spikes and then he was just okay for stretches. And so I think he got fully bought in on that. And the other thing too, is that I think, so we had Jordy Nelson on this Twitch stream we did, and we're asking about it. We're like, here, maybe he's had to have been a Packers. Maybe it was Chiefs Packers. They played, right? Anyway,
last year it was Mahomes was out. It was a Matt Moore show.
Okay, it was some Packer. Anyway, I think it was some Packers game, or maybe it was a Raiders game, and we had him on because we just needed somebody. At any rate, Jordy Nelson's on, and we're asking about Aaron Rodgers, and he's like, "Here's the deal, and why it wouldn't have worked to draft a receiver or to bring somebody in free agency right away." is that he said that Aaron Rodgers, not only he is very particular about who he trusts in terms of wide receivers. That's why he blasts these guys if they're not on the same page as him. But he wants them to be, they don't just need to be on the same page when it comes to the playbook, and they don't need to know the playbook in and out. They also have to be on the exact same page as Rodgers I don't think he didn't call this, but I'm going to coin the phrase, like a secondary break. So when Rodgers doesn't see the plays initially, Russell Wilson does this too. He does the thing where he spins out backwards, right? You know what I'm talking about? Yes. It's like signature Aaron Rodgers.
In my head, yes.
Yeah, it's annoying when you bet against him. He's completing that pass, then. You just know that's 20 yards.
This is what Jordy said, and I guess this should be obvious, but I never really heard one of Aaron Rodgers' receivers say it, is that you needed to be on the same page as him with your secondary break as a wide receiver, because if you took off and got open too early, he isn't seeing you because he's doing that little loop out the back. So you have to know when you're running, and I mean, like, the timing on that is effing crazy to get on the same page. You had to know when, like, the timing of Rodgers' rollout, so you could kind of create a fake and go one way and then come back the other way, or like go in and start a curl back or do a cut across, or get deep, get vertical if you're Jordy. And so, like, all of that, you know, I think that Rodgers has now taken all of that and gotten on the same page as these receivers and incorporated that into the LaFleur system while doing less freelancing. And I think that sort of unlocked everything for him this year, is my theory.
That checks out. I mean, because otherwise, like, it's really tough to tease out from the data. You know, they're running play action at the same rate, except this year he's got 22 touchdowns instead of 4 last year. Like,
and how do you quantify this? Receivers, you can't. Like, that's the answer. You can't quantify, like, receivers working with him enough to understand what to do when you get into scramble mode and where to be breaking to, whether it's coming back to the ball, or if, it probably depends on, like, what defense you're looking at. If they're playing safeties deep, it might be coming across rather than coming back.
Yeah.
I mean, what you said made my brain hurt.
Yeah.
It makes sense though. It does. It checks out.
I mean, like, it seems kind of obvious when you say it, but it's just something I never thought about. And like Jordy Nelson explained it to me, it's like, holy shit. Like,
it takes time. It takes time. It takes time to develop that type of chemistry. So yeah, this makes sense. Second year in the system. And honestly, like, guys, second year in a system, like, that's a thing. Like, we've heard that many times. Matt Ryan won MVP second year in the system.
Kyle Shanahan. Hey, wait, who's Kyle Shanahan's mentor? I mean, sorry, who's Matt LaFleur's mentor?
Yeah,
Kyle Shanahan. Like,
all right.
Look at, and to that same extent, I mean, maybe want to just, I don't know if you want to roll this into Rodgers Brady talk, but
I was exactly where we're going.
Brady, I would say look the F out next year for Brady, because we have seen superstar quarterbacks, like, whether Luck, but like, that take a Carson Palmer, Luck, Big Ben, all these dudes take a huge leap in terms of efficiency in Bruce Arians' system in their second year.
Okay, so let me ask you though about Bruce Arians in his tenure with the Bucs. Is he good?
I mean, Bruce Arians is objectively a good coach.
Objectively a good coach in terms of motivating men and getting them excited to play and being honest with the media and having, just having a good rep around the league. Yes.
And an overall, I think an overall offense, I don't want to say like game plan. That's the wrong word. Like an offensive mentality, or like an offensive
ethos.
Yeah. And an ethos would be a good word. Like, I like the offenses he's put together, but yeah, like, I mean, we saw that chart. I think it was Ben Baldwin. Eric put it in his article. He wrote, like, this is what we said about, what he was going to do. He was the worst coach last week, and he's going to leave win percentage on the field with some bad decisions. And it was just, Breeze, I don't want to say Breeze bailed him out. They played well, but Brady getting all those short fields with those receivers. What do you think is going to happen? You're going to lose by 10. That's what's going to happen.
The Bucs were bailed out by a Saints team that probably had like 10% of the season snaps with Kamara, Breeze, and Michael Thomas together on the same field over the course of the entire season. And they weren't on the same page. Breeze is still banged up. I mean, he's like, underthrowing Kamara on a Texas route. Like, what are we like? That's That's pretty. I mean, I feel confident I can complete that in a clean pocket.
Yeah, and no, it gave the Bucs' defense a chance to be aggressive, a chance to to really cheat on the short stuff and create the tips, create the picks, all the turnover, all that, and Jared Cook is always asking to be fumbled. I'm glad someone finally saw it and took advantage of that, even though I would have liked to see this, the Saints move on for futures purposes. I'm happier with Brady in this game for a handicapping standpoint. I guess over the last 8 games for the Buccaneers. Like my main read on it is Brady is doing it in spite of the coaching.
Yes.
Am I being too hard on them?
No. I do think that they have found a way to blend it a little bit better. But my whole reason for picking against the Bucs against the spread in the first week against Washington.
Sure.
And then, last week I thought that Saints were my favorite bet of the weekend, honestly, because they beat him. Like Bruce Arians is not going to adjust his system. He's not going to start all of a sudden. Like Bill Belichick would look at the matchup and say, all right, Josh, we're running mesh 42 times against the Saints linebackers with Antonio Brown and Chris Godwin. Yeah. And then, you're going to have a read with Mike Evans on a 9 route outside. Like we're just going to run that over and over again with, they
can't stop it and they'll learn the hard way.
Right. And Bruce Arians is stubborn and won't do that. He's also stubborn and won't. And I think it's more like that's just who he is. Okay. It's not like he's an idiot. He's just stubborn and what he's done works. I mean, that's why the Steelers ran him out of town.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that checks out. Yeah.
That's why we were worried about this marriage before the season.
Sure.
Because in his, at Brady's age, not wanting him getting hit, getting the ball out quicker, things that we saw work in New England are like, Bruce Arians isn't going to just change his ethos because he has Tom Brady. Like he's going to run his offense, and it just, then they got all these receivers, everything worked out. They not only have Gronk, they have another good tight end, and now even, Christ's sakes, even somebody in the chat just brought up playoff Lenny. Even Fournette looked good last week. It looked good for Leonard Fournette.
That's true.
Like a nice route, making a great catch to carry going into the end zone. I mean,
I guess because here's the thing. You have, let me count now. Evans, Godwin, Antonio Brown, Gronk, Brait, Scotty Mitchell, even Tyler Johnson. You have 7 receiving options who are dynamic. And Fournette. But and if you had like a Dable type of aggressive, we're just going to pass and find different ways to hurt you. Like
6,000 yard season.
Yeah. Maybe. This is going crazy. And what I really feel like I got out of some of the audio, some of the clips that you hear of Brady and Leftwich communicating on the sideline, some of the stuff that like, hey, look at this. The Bucs are finally using some of Brady's plays from the Patriots that he succeeded so well in. And it's like, it's week 15. What the hell? Like, guys, what are we doing here? Like it's taking this long to figure out how to use this guy.
No better time to do it though.
Yeah. Maybe implemented some plays from Oklahoma for Baker Mayfield, guys. Like, come on.
Yes.
Like, what are we doing?
Yes.
I mean,
And, okay.
So then, if you took the Bucs playmakers and Brady and threw them on the Patriots, that team's 14-2.
Sure.
And if you take the Patriots playmakers and Brady and put them on the Bucs, that team's 4-12.
I completely agree with that. Okay, so this game in particular, Packers Bucs, sets up in a way that I think is almost too easy, which is always get a little nervous when you're this far into the season and so many people know the same things. Market's not stupid, let's not pretend like we know much more than everyone else betting into this market. But a couple of things are pretty obvious that stand out here from a handicapping standpoint. The first is Matt LaFleur is a superlative game scripter. Yes. He comes up with a first 15 plays that is going to make you bleed. You are going to bleed in the first quarter against the Packers, period. Yeah. Tom Brady and the Bucs, they run on early downs in the first quarter. They try to figure out what you're doing on defense and just get a feel for the game. And how many freaking Super Bowls have we seen Brady score 0 points in the first quarter? Like besides all of them, I guess maybe one, he had 3 points.
Do we have
3
any
points.
examples of? Do we have any examples of Green Bay getting up early on Tampa?
I don't know. We'll have to look at the schedule and see if there's an example of this. But let's just assume, for all intents and purposes, that Green Bay probably out to a hot start here. Tampa Bay's defense does not match up well against Green Bay, particularly in my opinion. You have, you have a defense in Tampa that if they can be aggressive with your passer, then they can make you pay. They can make you hurt. But they will leave you opportunities to take advantage of them over the top. Just ask Justin Herbert when he went to Tampa Bay in the first half of that game. They attacked them over the top a couple of times early in that one, and it was eye-opening. Like, whoa, I guess this defense sucks. I didn't realize, but it was literally just the type of play that they were running and really took advantage of the aggressiveness of the Bucs defense. And if I'm armchair, offensive coordinator seeing this, Matt LaFleur knows this. Like, it's tough for me to see, and again, to Andy's point, they went into Tampa Bay in week 6 or whatever off their bye, and he was generating 0.77 EPA per play in the first quarter in that game.
And that game looked over.
It looked over.
It was over at 10-0, man.
Yes, it was. It turned out. But not for you, but not for me.
Yeah.
Call the ambulance.
Yeah. Call an ambulance.
Yes.
You just did a meme on air. I like that.
Yeah. Call the ambulance, but not for me. But in general, like, I guess if you're Tampa, you know this too, right? Do you put a premium on trying to come into this game and try to get a hot start? Or are we literally looking at this is the bet of the week, Green Bay first quarter at plus money for a half point. Green Bay first half is -2.5 plus money. Like, are these plus EV bets in your opinion?
First half. I mean,
I was
Arians, how he's not going to change. I mean, that's yeah.
I was like moving stuff around. I was grabbing a notepad because we have our best bet show tomorrow. I'm definitely playing Green Bay first quarter. Like, yeah, it makes all the sense in the world. Let's look no further than the freaking game last week against the Saints.
Yeah.
The Saints should have been up 14-0, and that game is probably over because Brady's trying to chunk it deep, and the Saints are being more conservative on offense and maybe not making as many mistakes. I think Green Bay, they ran in the first quarter against Tampa. Oh my God. They ran 21 plays in the first quarter against Tampa.
Yeah.
In that game where they lost 38-10. That is like
weird.
They went 3 plays, 9 yards, and punted, and then didn't see the ball again until the second quarter. Yep. And I do think that there'll be a feeling out. Like, if we had some sort of situation where we had seen Tampa Bay, and then they came out against really. I mean, they played a little bit better against Washington. 9 plays, 55 yards for a field goal on the first drive, 5 plays, 16 yards on the second one, and then scored a touchdown on the third drive. Washington's not the same, though. You're like,
no. If you consider what they did on balance in that game to that defense, those first couple drives were bad.
Yeah, for sure. And so I think we have proof of what the Buccaneers will do in the regular season, and that carried over to the postseason. And we have proof of what the Packers will do in the regular season, and it carried over the postseason. So there's no reason. First quarter is a smash bet.
Okay.
It's a hard consensus. Let's just
what are some of the things
really good after 15 minutes?
What are some of the things that break this bet? Like a Rodgers turnover? That seems pretty unlikely, right?
He had 4 picks all season.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and how many were versus Tampa that week though? I think he threw 2 in a row. So
it wasn't until the second quarter though.
Yeah, I do believe.
I saw Boston say this on NFL Live this afternoon. He's like, watch out for Carlton Davis versus Devontae Adams. Carlton Davis, great in man coverage. Devontae, it's like, that's not the matchup that's bad for Dan's a great analyst, but Devontae Adams was fresh off injury. He and Rodgers hadn't played together for multiple weeks.
That's true.
Like, that's if the Packers get Devontae Adams on Carlton Davis 1-on-1 all game long, it's adios amigo. I mean, it is.
He's breaking much better coverage men right now. And yeah, where this offense is compared to where it was 10, 12 weeks ago, it's not the same. Like, if they keep their foot on the gas, I'm excited. I am kind of excited for an over in this, just because of the game script, and where I stand on the Green Bay defense, especially the Green Bay defense with the lead. And we've played this game before with second halves. We've done it with Mitch fucking Trubisky. we said like, yeah, the Green Bay has a lead, but and playoffs are different. But I believe this Green Bay defense can be scored on if another offense gets aggressive, has to get aggressive, stays aggressive, plays with all 4 downs because they're down. This sets, a situation in the playoffs even more dire. You get to that 4-down territory a lot quicker. So like live overs are going to feel pretty good if Green Bay drives to a big enough lead, or even any lead by either team. I feel like I'm going to be smashing live overs. I know somebody in here who live bets a lot as well.
How about
below me?
How about live Bucs?
Live overs.
Live over, live Bucs. What's the right call? Let's say that we're not idiots, and we've correctly identified the most likely way that the first quarter goes down. Green Bay is up 14-3. What do we do now?
Are you taking Tampa plus 10.5, or are you taking the over?
Yeah.
The over. So if it's 14-3, I think the perfect first quarter score under what we're projecting to bet on, and we're going to ride this consensus that netted us a very profitable weekend last year, is 10-0 Green Bay after 1.
Yeah, that seems fair.
And if it's 10-0 Green Bay after 1, then I think our live, because you know what the other game like this was? And let me see if I can find it real quick. What week was the Saints-Packers game?
Week 3.
Okay, week 3. So
early on.
That. Because I was convinced, that was a Sunday night football game. I was convinced, and the Saints were up 7-3 after the first quarter, that game was going under from like pre-flop. I liked it pre-flop.
Yeah, same. I was on that as well.
I think actually, a bunch of us were. So it's 7-3 after the first quarter, and it's like, this is in great shape. And then what happened was, I believe you just had basically both teams chasing points at different times. The Packers scored twice in the second quarter, and the Saints scored twice in the second quarter. I guess it was just sort of turned into a shootout, and then the Packers are up and the Saints were chasing points, right?
Yep.
I believe that's what it was. So
yeah.
I think there's a pretty good chance that if Green Bay has a 10-0 lead after the first quarter, that we could see, as Andy points out, Bruce Arians really start opening it up.
Sure, and he has to go to the good place. He can't do what he wants to do, which is this.
Lenny, hit the showers.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And your total, what's your total at that point? Like
40,
somewhere between 45 and 48, depending, how things are looking. So, if it's a 47.5, that's probably me hitting buttons.
Okay.
So are we? What is it? Is it 51 pre-flop?
Yes, 51 pre-flop.
I believe so.
Pre-flop if pre-flop's the hottest like gambling term to emerge.
Oh, yeah.
It's really caught on this one.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I've like started writing it in my articles. I'm like, it's pre-flop. I'm like, maybe I should slow down. So it's 51. I think if you get anything under 48 at 10-0 or 14-3, it's probably still at 50, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I guess
53.
Are you still feeling out Tampa Bay a little bit at that point, though? Like, this is their third week in a row on the road. This is
in the snow.
This is a Florida team. I guess just off the top of your head, Andy, what would you guess the coldest game time temperature that the Buccaneers played in this season was?
Probably the New York game, the Giants game.
Yeah, what was the temperature in that? What's
like 48?
60 degrees. They have not played in below 60-degree weather.
How warm was it in Washington 2 weeks ago?
I don't know, 60 degrees, I guess.
Okay. And someone in the chat did bring up Rams and Packers were tied after 1. Yeah, we think much more highly of McVay's, his scripted plays than we do of anything Arians would ever do.
Well,
even though the Rams are not nearly as good.
The Goff, they came out doing the opposite of what we thought they would. They let Goff throw it. And it definitely
his thumb was great as it turned out.
He looked awesome, and it caught the Packers way off guard because he had those 2 shot plays, one to Reynolds, and then the next play to Robert Woods that picked up a ton of yards. And then that got them, and then they were running no huddle, and they hit those 2 big plays, and then McVay huddled up and ran Wildcat with Cam Akers. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Andy, you were right, by the way. Washington was colder. It was 40 degrees there, but every one of their
40,
regular
yeah.
season,
I mean, yeah, but
every
the
one of their
regular-
regular season games was over 60 degrees.
The whole second half of the regular season, they never went north, and if they did, it was like Detroit, and they were indoors. Like I think it was like late October or something in New York was like the coldest game they would have likely played. I didn't even go back and check the weather. They just had a warm weather kind of schedule. So Brady said his blood is thin, man.
Dude, 40 degrees in Alexandria, like Washington area, versus 28 in Green Bay. That's like the difference between Tampa or like Miami and Tampa, like relative to temperatures. I mean, no, sorry, it's more than that. It's like North Carolina to Miami. I mean, that's a huge gap to me.
Oh,
like
yeah.
40 and
we might be getting snow as well. There's a storm front coming through this weekend. It hits. I'll let you know when it hits me because I'll be like a day before Green Bay. I'll keep you updated on that. But if I don't know who that, I guess in both games, I'm not sure who would gain an advantage if there was snow during the game. But I don't think it would help. Our guy that's now retired down in Boca Raton playing for the Bucs.
I'm not worried about. He's complained about the cold weather a lot this year. He has. He said like 4 or 5 things. He's like, "Well, I'm never going back to the cold weather." It's like, dude, you might.
New England,
you might have to.
Okay, so I guess how about the third straight roadie? Last week, is it fair to say that the Ravens were lethargic out there, and that could in some ways be ascribed to not just the wind, but the fact that was their third straight week traveling?
That's a good point, and I also think when you talk about a third straight road game for a team like Tampa, so not only are you going, you're going from
DC,
but you're easy. Warm Tampa to cold DC, back to warm Tampa, over to the Dome, back to warm Tampa, up to Lambeau Field. And I think one of the things that's sort of flown under the radar too is if you're traveling this season, I know home field advantage sort of went out the window against the spread, but like you have to do a bunch of this protocol stuff, and it's got to be a pain. Like you're doing traveling, I know it's easier, first class flying and all that, but like you're getting swabbed. I mean, like it just doesn't seem like it would be all that awesome. You're not.
We wondered about that before the season. That was like my theory that maybe home field would, because we were seeing it disappear. And I said, isn't it, I read this one thing somebody posted in a chat about like the protocol. And this was just for anybody who was going to check into this certain hotel, and like the protocol with the luggage and this and that and everything. And I'm like, my God, is it going to be like just this awful maneuver to get on a plane, off a plane, into a hotel, out of the hotel, into a stadium? And as it turns out, and again, we've mentioned it and we've seen plenty of studies where people have run the numbers, and it's just home field has kind of gone. A lot of it, as it turned out, was the fans. And I mean, that brings me to my point. We are going to have fans in both stands this weekend again. And I think you can say third straight roadie, and yes, there's signal there. It doesn't help the Ravens, but Christ, those fans were loud in Buffalo.
Oh my God.
It was awesome, honestly.
You think I think there was a quote of one of the Packers saying that like 66,000 sounded like 65,000. Like it was basically
whatever. Right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that.
Or you see the Packers against the Rams.
Yeah. Packers about the Rams. They were like so excited to finally have fans. It was like it sounded so loud. It's like, okay, yeah. If you've been playing in zero for the whole season, and all of a sudden you have 6,000 people cheering you, it's going to be pretty cool. And I get that.
And Buffalo and Green Bay, I'm just going to say it: 2 drunkest fan bases easily. Exactly.
This is
it's not even close. 1 and 1A
base. Sipping back Pinot Grigio and like nibbling on, like caviar and cheese. Like you might get out in LA.
You guys trying to get the Kansas City fans fired up or what? Like,
I mean, they might be
completely leave them out of the conversation.
Boulevard, just eating raw meat.
Yeah. Okay. So, reasonable chance, non-zero probability that Tampa Bay is out of this one because of the conditions, because of the travel, because of the fact that, even on their best day, Rodgers is going to hang points on them.
Yep.
Right. How do we feel about a blind bet on Tampa in the second half? Like Tampa seems built for a comeback. They can hit home runs. They have guys that can absolutely get open down the field. They have a offensive line that pass protects like freaking badasses. They have a run defense that is going to not let Green Bay play keep away and eat the clock with an 8-minute drive, right? And in fact, if I'm LaFleur, I know that I'm not planning on running much at all in this game, even with the lead. I'm passing. We're going to hang 40 on these guys. We're not even.
If AB is healthy, he's turned into just God level possession receiver now.
Yeah.
Or you're finding him 12 yards down the field along the sidelines, just open. And Brait's played that part too, just getting little, not over the top stuff, but little chunks to Brait, little chunk, just moving, always moving. Like their offense has looked pretty good. I don't know the status for AB still day to day, but again, we've mentioned just the list of receivers they have. Even if you're missing one, it's still a ton.
Are you guys aware of who was the 2016 Atlanta Falcons quarterbacks coach?
Was it LaFleur?
It was Matt LaFleur.
Really? My goodness.
Tom Brady not storm back against him in the second half. Do you think that Matt LaFleur is going to take his foot off the gas against Tom effing Brady after?
I want to bet the over right now.
You know what, Will? I would have said no fucking way. Except what was up with Shanahan last year in the Super Bowl? He was in that spot too. Why wasn't he more aggressive in that game? I still don't get it. And I had
his brain broke.
I won Chiefs bets on that game, so I shouldn't be upset about it. Why wasn't he more aggressive?
What you don't have, Drew, is you don't have the MVP.
Yeah.
I think Shanahan was like, we got the lead with Jimmy. We got to hold on for dear life. And he did take a shot with Emmanuel Sanders. But I guess they were trailing.
Yeah, they had a 10-point lead. A 10-point lead at that point in the game feels good against 31 other quarterbacks.
Somebody wants to know, is Phalian Summer on this podcast?
No, he was on the wild card round.
Yeah, last week. Yeah. Suma.
Yeah, he's Phalian Summer.
Fabian's asleep, man. It's like 4 in the
Yeah. But yeah, anyway. I think LaFleur has to know that this is not and Rodgers has to know. He just watched Drew Brees get
caught from behind, run down from behind.
Right.
Sleep. Took him to the farm, let him run around for the rest,
This is your job if you're Aaron Rodgers. This is it. You want the second Super Bowl so people stop talking about your wasted career in Green Bay?
Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah.
You have to win this one.
Yeah. No, the aggressive index is at 10 until the final whistle, if you're Green Bay, right?
God, I just want Green Bay team total now.
I think that should be the secret.
And not only that, but we've mentioned this numerous times, but what happened against the Colts, again, sorry for your tickets on that one. What happened against the Colts? Like that was a nice kick in the pants as far as staying aggressive in the second half.
Great point. That's the kind of lesson you want a team to have learned in the regular season for this
to
game.
Their advantage. We've lost you money in that game.
Okay. So Green Bay team total. For Andy, first of all, if we can get 27.5 Green Bay team total, you're in?
Yes, that's the secret team total.
Okay. Last point. Why am I not empty the accounts on Green Bay -3?
It's 3.5 right now.
And is it 3.5 right now? It's because it's already trickling back up. Did I miss the low spot?
I can look. I think you can.
I've been holding my breath all week waiting for this to get to 3 -115-ish. I saw it at 120 not long before we recorded.
Yeah, the best 3 you're going to get right now is 125.
Damn it.
Maybe a 123 I'm seeing. So
why am I not laying 3.5?
Why are you not betting an alt at 6.5?
Yeah,
why are you not betting at 5.5? A 6?
Yeah.
I'm betting small.
Tom Brady can come back on these guys. He can do it with these weapons against this defense. I mean, there's some decent defenders.
This cashes in the first quarter.
there's some decent defenders in the secondary for the Green Bay Packers. Guys that get forgotten. I mean, I don't love the defense. I hate the Packers.
The defense as a whole, I hate.
Yeah, I hate.
But they have some flash. They have some flash players.
They do. I mean, let's say Antonio Brown's limited. I mean, you can kind of toss Jair Alexander on either Evans or Godwin, or just sit him on one side and be like, "You're taking one of these dudes," and then
take away that half the field,
and then force. I mean, I don't think Tom Brady's going to get into give up mode in this game because I don't think the Packers defense is good enough, and it's a conference championship, and that's just not what Tom Brady does. But I mean, I can definitely see they're getting some pressure on Brady early, and he starts throwing a couple of ducks. I mean, we saw that from him when he gets hit.
Yeah, that's a great point. All right, I'm eventually going to lay the points with the Packers. I'm probably and actually, you know what? We're talking about I mean, 51. Let's 50. This isn't a 51-point game. Like this should be 55-ish. And total
like
that
the
high.
over.
I total that
like
high. How much is the hook worth? Nah.
Sell it to 4.
Yeah. Okay. And then we just. Because honestly, there's a realization of this game that looks a hell of a lot like Green Bay, Tennessee. Is there not? Warm weather team, awesome freaking offense. Defense has question marks. Goes up to Lambeau. Field's a little questionable, a little slick.
Yeah, Will said
14?
Will said like Brady's not giving up. Brady's important. Brady's the most important person on the team. He's the most important position on the team. He might not give up, but there is nothing worse. I'm going to go back to Andy's high school football career because that's comparable to Tom Brady. But like, there's something to be said for losing a game, and it's a nice fall evening, and it's beautiful out. Like, oh yeah, this stinks, guys. We're losing. There's another thing to be down 21 and it's snowing and awful. Like, everybody just wants to get on that bus and go back to the school. Like, this sucks. I hate it out here. I want to go golfing. Like, and not saying anyone would ever quit, but it's a little easier to quit when it's miserable out.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll get him next year when it's at our house.
Have we seen Tom Brady this year come back from a huge deficit with this?
He closed the enormous gap against the Chiefs to backdoor that 3.5.
They backdoored.
Yeah.
The Chiefs were letting everybody do that.
Yeah.
He had a comeback. I mean, he came back against Saints last week, but that was defense related more than it was Brady.
Yeah. Getting 30-yard fields. So
he was not able to mount a comeback week 1 against the Saints. He was not able to mount a comeback against
Chargers.
Chargers. Oh yeah, you know what? Actually, yeah, and that was great. Yeah, that was a very solid second half by Brady.
In thinking about both of those games, those were situations where Brady's they're like you said, let's use the good plays.
Yeah.
I think that's yeah. Oh, yeah, he came back to Atlanta. Oh, that's right. Oh,
Goff tried to get them back in the game against the Rams, but they still lost.
Yeah. Come back against Atlanta was brutal, but Atlanta.
Yeah. Okay.
Brady's done it this year, but I mean, again, in all three of their games. So that's sort of I think you're right, Drew, on the second half Tampa bet.
Just fire away on them. Okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's like 28-14 or something.
And it could be a Tampa Bay team total over second half, or just the second half over. The second half over. I think in some way, shape, or form, we're betting on Tampa Bay to score some points. And it might end up, if the over's reasonable, it might be both teams score some points because Tampa Bay will push Green Bay to remain aggressive, not blow Aaron's, maybe one of his last chances. So
it'll be hysterical.
I like how we have a second half play already loaded.
I mean, I just right. I mean, I like Green Bay first quarter. I like the Green Bay team total, the half and the full game. Yep. And I mean, I like the full game over, and I like Green Bay. And then I think that you probably get some kind of window if you want with Tampa Bay in the second half.
Yeah, either second half or live somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or a live window with Tampa Bay.
You know what this game plays out like? This game plays out like Chicago at Green Bay on Sunday Night Football week. What was that? Week 12?
Yeah. Maserati Mitch got us 2 in the second half.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, it sounds like we're all on the same page. Let's take a quick break and then let's get to game number 2. Good thing we only have 2 this week. Hey, Whale Capper here. If you live in New Jersey or Colorado, check out our new sponsor, WinBet. If you sign up with the link in this tweet and make at least one wager, we'll send you a free deep dive hoodie. You can't buy one of these. You can only get one by supporting the pod. We appreciate your help and best of luck this weekend. We've gotten a lot of comments to people who don't live in Colorado and New Jersey that want a hoodie. There's a way they can still get one, right, Andy?
There is a way. Yeah, you still can't buy it. Don't try to buy it. I've had people offer me lots of money. I have no control over that.
You either need to be as famous as Will and be a friend of the pod, and we'll send you one, or
I don't have a hoodie yet. Where's my hoodie? It looks really cool.
I have not even okayed that.
Yeah. So if you want a hoodie and you don't live in New Jersey or Colorado, go give a 5-star rating to the BetSperts app. Make sure to leave enough information there so that we can identify who you are, because we're going to pick a couple random people and we're going to send them deep dive hoodies as a gratitude. And after, even beyond this this particular win promotion, we're going to be printing out hoodies and trying to come up with free ways to send them out to people, because we appreciate you guys. And yeah.
So
What's that?
Do a free Squares game for the Super Bowl.
Oh, now we're talking.
We will be doing some sort of Super Bowl, like the Google Docs thing, or Google Forms, like enter a bunch of props.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you'll be able to win some stuff. You'll be able to win some stuff on the Super Bowl for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So give the BetSperts app a 5-star rating, and we'll send you a hoodie if you are a lucky winner. Okay, moving on to Kansas City, Buffalo. Not as much to say about this game.
Yeah, let's not do this game because of the injury. Let's wait.
See you guys. Have a good night.
We wait for all of our bets to cash on Green Bay, and then we go and we bet them right before the AFC title game. That's how that works, right? Like you wait and you make all those bets in that gap, right? As they're doing the trophy presentation, you're just getting all your fire.
What is Andy drinking? How are we not going to have a?
What are you drinking?
There's
I got one of those things where you mash a bunch of fruit in there. It's like I tell my wife I'm eating fruit now.
Giant portable Manhattan or something.
I mean, there's not liquor.
Are they alcohol soaked? Those look like alcohol soaked cranberries to me.
Yeah, they're rum soaked cranberries.
Yeah, I'm not a professional. Okay, so the nightcap would have been the more interesting game if we had a fully healthy, fully ready to go Mahomes, because these two teams match up absolutely perfectly. Chiefs and Chiefs light, Chiefs and Chiefs ice, as Andy coined last week, which I thought was perfect. The Buffalo Bills are Chiefs ice. A little bit more volatile, little higher alcohol version of the Chiefs. Amazing passing, pass first teams.
We're a team we've fallen in love with.
Yeah, running back question marks. And defenses that are suspect that can be attacked. I mean, this is a very, very competitive matchup, and it's going to be a very competitive game. Now, it has been a long-standing tradition on this podcast to throw dirt on the Chiefs and say how stupidly overrated they are by the market, and that you're paying a tax every time you bet the Chiefs, and just know it if you're betting them. I've done it knowingly, but you just should know it. This week, though, has offered a unique opportunity where you are probably making a tax-free bet if you bet Chiefs -3, because there is a teeny sliver of likelihood that Mahomes does not get cleared by the independent neurologist, and that this is the Chad Henne show. And in that tiny sliver, there's enough probability that they've moved the number from 3.5 to 3. And 3, that's pretty fair. It's tough for me to come away from just evaluating these teams, considering the situation, considering the home field advantage for the Chiefs, the little bit of extra rest they had with the bye and the bye week 17, and just their overall strength when they're 100%. That they ought to be favored by about a field goal here. Now, there are specific aspects of this matchup that I cannot advocate backing the Chiefs, but Andy, you did. So I'm curious, and I'm going to give you the floor first. Make the case. Sell me this Chiefs -3.
I make it -1 million that he plays. Okay. I don't think there's a situation. He's going to play. I don't think there's a situation where I don't think the neurologists are truly independent once we get to this point in the season. This is a billion upon billion dollar industry. If Roger, not Aaron Rodgers is not a bad guy. Ask his family. Maybe they think so. But Roger Goodell is legitimately possibly a supervillain. And if whatever it's going to take, you're getting your poster boy playing. He will be playing. So yeah, I made it closer to 4.
Not to push back and carry water for the league here, but devil's avocado here. If these guys weren't independent, then Mahomes is back out of the field in the second half when the Chiefs are about to lose to the Browns, right?
Yeah.
I just don't think
I just don't think they had enough time to get to that guy.
Maybe so. Okay.
That's fair.
They were sending somebody from the league office. He just got there too late, and
Roger was in the stadium.
Henny looks okay.
Roger was there.
He was. I know. I don't think he had his cronies with him. You don't travel with henchmen.
He doesn't do the dirty work himself.
What if there was 3 scary henchmen?
Oh, that's super villain. Yeah, super villain rule number 1 is you don't do the dirty work yourself. You have henchmen. I get it.
Yeah, okay. You have henchmen.
right. Anyway.
Either, I mean, joking aside, I do think he plays. I don't think he had a concussion. They've come out and said he didn't. Basically, they've said he's in concussion protocol because of the symptoms he showed based on getting his ass choked out. I think he's fine. I'm actually more worried about the toe than anything.
Hey,
and I do make it. Go ahead.
Interruption moment. Do we think they shot him up with some heavy duty painkillers at halftime, and that was part of the reason he looked like he had drunk Bambi legs?
Ooh.
I don't know, man. He got choked funny. Like I thought, I've said this numerous times. I thought it was a leg injury. The way he stood up and couldn't put weight on that leg, I'm like, oh no, what's going on? And then they said concussion. I'm like, well, that doesn't make a lick of damn sense. So, I mean, the basis of my handicap is I make the number bigger than 3. 3 being a super key, 14% kind of number, even with a higher total, pretty key. I think it should be 4. And in the rare case he doesn't play, it doesn't matter what number I got, it's bad. Like sure. if he is out, in the very small chance he's out, it doesn't matter what number I got. If it's on the other side of 0, I'm fucked. Like that's the wrong number. So I played it because I do believe he plays. I think they're the better team. I love the Bills. I kind of like the over in this one too. But again, I see way too many paths and game scripts for this one to stay under compared to what the permutations of the Green Bay game. So I'm probably going to stay away from this total altogether, but yeah, I was fine with it. I was pretty sad when it went to 2.5, but I didn't add. I'm just going to sit on it. I mean, there's some people that made good cases for taking +3 plus, whatever they could find. They said you're free rolling that he doesn't play. Like essentially you still have a +3. If he doesn't play, you're sitting on a +3 when the line moves to -3. You get like 5 points of value. And if he does play, is there a huge difference in your mind? It's not like he took a +2.5. So it's silly, I guess, on my part to probably get involved too early, but I was fine with it. And I've convinced my numbers in this team, and I'm riding them.
Okay. Will, is this an actionable angle, or am I, because I'm struggling because these teams are so similar. Yeah. I'm struggling to find actionable angles to bet this one.
So I don't think the Mahomes thing is an actionable angle. And I'm rewatching the injury right now. And here's what I think happened. I think he got pulled down in like a sleeper hole style thing because there's no helmet contact. Yeah. His head never hit the, his own helmet. Like his head never hit the turf and knocked his helmet out. And if you got hit in the windpipe while you were like running at full speed, I think you very easily could, or like it got twisted, like you got choked out and you lost oxygen, you would get woozy, right? But now let's do tinfoil cap conspiracy.
We've all played the choke game, Will.
What's that?
Not big. That's the whole point of it.
Right. Yeah. You got to get a little woozy, right? So, but let's play the conspiracy or the tinfoil hat angle the other way. Now, Mahomes goes into the locker room, and I think Carrington Harrison, who's in sports radio in Kansas City, said that a source told him that Mahomes was able to answer 4 of 5 questions, but could not answer one that was game specific. And at that point, the independent neurologist cannot clear him to go back to the game.
Oh, interesting.
Mahomes is placed into the protocol.
Learning stuff.
He's ruled out, right?
Yeah.
Like at that point, rules are the rules. Them's the
breaks. Yeah.
So he then think about the language that Andy Reid has used since after the game. Andy Reid was like, "Yeah, he cleared some stuff." It's like, what? What do you mean he cleared some stuff? I mean, he was tweeting.
That was somebody brought that up in the chat on our previous podcast. They said the fact that they let him use a cell phone, like you don't get to use a screen device if you have a bad concussion.
Right. And so today on Wednesday, he goes out there and he has non-contact practice, which is a huge sign for him playing. Like if he's doing non-contact on Wednesday, he's fine. What you'd be looking for with a concussion is non-contact on Friday, and then you think there's a really good chance he'll play. But it does non-contact on Wednesday. The Chiefs list him as a full participant. Mm-hmm. And then they walk it back and they're like, no, never mind. He was limited. I think somebody from the league probably called the Chiefs is like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like
I read on why that had to happen though.
What's that?
I read about that. They said he was a full participant because it was a walkthrough, and then somebody made them walk it back because they said if it had been a full practice,
he wouldn't have.
He's still in protocol. He could not be full. So they made him walk it back because he technically. So he got walked back to limited on a technicality. So I'm with them.
But the league doesn't want this to look like the Chiefs are just kicking this, because people will start writing articles like, did the Chiefs bypass concussion protocol? So Mahomes
Will Smith makes a sequel.
Because Colin Coward's out there on today, like the post-practice championship game. It's like, what are you talking?
Tell the truth. Yeah, tell the truth. All we want is Kansas City to tell the truth. Okay, so is this an actionable angle though? Let's assume your breakdown was perfect. I'm fully bought in.
I learned a lot about the protocol this week. I'll tell you that.
I asked pretty good about it on my podcast.
Let's go back a year in time to an AFC Championship game that was Pat Mahomes' second in his career. He was down 10 points to the mighty Tennessee Titans. Hope was waning at the end of the first half. Are we going to go into halftime with the deficit? Lo and behold, Pat Mahomes unlocks a gear. He unlocks the whole aspect of his game that we had not seen before. He is scrambling on third downs in crunch time of in the 2-minute drill for the Chiefs. He's scrambling, and oh my gosh, he's fast, and holy shit, his vision is excellent. And why are we surprised by this? Right? And Andy Reid saying, you know what? We're going to call some plays where we clear out this whole half of the field, and we're going to give Mahomes 2 opportunities. One, his guy beats his receiver beats his man. He throws a home run. His receivers are well covered. He takes off and scrambles for 20 yards. It works to perfection, to the tune of he runs a 27-yard scramble touchdown. The Chiefs take the lead heading into halftime, and the rest is history. Okay?
Yeah.
A lot of the DNA of the Chiefs this season, particularly in 2-minute warning, particularly in we are up 1 score and we need to put away this game, the DNA has been third down and medium or long. We're not going to just rely on a pass. We're going to give Mahomes the opportunity to run if the lane is there. And he has done it to perfection. And a lot of the kind of, hey, they're up a field goal and I'm pulling my hair out because I'm like, how can they not be freaking covering? They've been dominating this game. And it's like, well, they know that they're not ever giving the ball back because they're going to get a first down every time they freaking feel like it. And a lot of that, I think, was Mahomes' mobility and his ability to scramble, which has been superlative now going on a year and a game. Is that impacted by whatever's going on with this foot injury? Is that impacted by, even if his foot is feeling fine and or shut up, he's not willing to put his head in harm's way by scrambling? More likely to slide, less likely to get the key yard. Does that impact, does this lower the ceiling of what we're expecting in terms of efficiency from the Chiefs offense this week? Is that an actionable angle?
I think it might be, Drew. So Patrick Mahomes, for his career, over the course of his regular season career, 3.74 rush attempts per game. In 2020, it was 4.1 rush attempts per game. But over the course of his playoff career, in 6 playoff games so far, 5.33 rush attempts per game. That's a huge spike from him run way more. And I can't get out of my head. And this may be why I'm so on the fence about this game. I can't get out of my head the picture of, and I got Mahomes in the FFPC or whatever. Yeah. And our team's dead, so it's fine. Link Cal, by the way, is at
Cal's winning it.
He has Lamar, I think, in that Mr. Brown team.
Yeah,
so. Mr. Brown's
in trouble.
Oh, Cactus Jack there. But so I couldn't get out of my head watching that one scramble he had where it was like the 10-yard scramble, and he looked like he was holding a walker.
Yes.
I know. I can picture it. It was to the left.
Yep.
It's like maybe somewhere in the 8 to 10 yards, and it sucked. The funny thing is, even hobbled Mahomes, there was so much room cleared out just from the scheme. It's
the play design was brilliant.
It's like Peyton Manning today could walk into that offense and probably scramble for 6 yards on that play. Today, 55-year-old Peyton
Chad
Manning
Henne
could run.
get 13 and a half yards on that play.
Chad Henne did it. I mean, devil's. What I'm going to say, devil's advocate, because I think that's the saying. You said avocado. Which
I like that better. Avocado is fun.
Devil's avocado is very.
It's a 30 rock.
We're going green. I need to rewatch.
Tracy goes on Larry King Live, and Larry's like, Tracy, there's a war breaking out here. And he's like, Devil's avocado, Larry.
Are you wearing a tuxedo? What's that for 5? What am I, a farmer? Oh, God. No, you guys killed my train of thought. No, full devil's avocado on this is whenever assholes like us are talking about something like this,
sure,
the smartest GD coach in the league also knows. And and that's where I'm excited. I'm excited / scared to see, like, if they're just going to stop using that sort of clear out, option to run on third down. If they're going to see some different stuff, if we're going to see, and the scary part is you don't get those rushes, which were so effective. They were always, if you want to talk about play success on those runs, it was high. Because they were basically a play is successful on third down if you get the yards to gain. And the fact that he was always getting the yards to gain was, indicative of how high the success percentage was. So if you take that out, you can say, well, that sucks. But at the same time, if you take that out, Andy's just putting something different in, and something different might be something that's not on film. And that's bad for Bill's defense.
That's very fair. So basically, instead of we're clearing out the left and creating a running lane, we're making it look like that. And this is actually a screenplay to D. Williams to the right or something like that. Like that's what you're getting at?
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I'm surprised. I'm excited for the surprise.
But now the cool part about the chess match here is that the coach on the other side, Sean McDermott, is Andy Reid's old defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Who from Philadelphia, he fired Jim Johnson. He replaces him with Sean McDermott. McDermott gets crushed by the fans because he wasn't Jim Johnson, gets run the hell out of town as quick as can be. It goes to Carolina, rehabilitates his image with another Andy Reid protege in Ron Rivera. Andy Reid replaces the butterfly effect of this is kind of fascinating, but McDermott can't fill Jim Johnson's shoes. Andy Reid decides to replace him with Juan Castillo, their offensive line coach. For the dream team, that team goes to absolute crap. And Andy Reid's tenure in Philadelphia ends in 2013 or 2012, and he goes to Kansas City. And now he and McDermott are squaring off again. I think they're probably great friends. I don't think McDermott holds a grudge on that, but I do wonder, working with Andy Reid for that long and knowing Andy Reid that well, does it give him a built-in advantage to be able to sort of see the moves in advance about how Andy Reid might operate offensively?
Picturing some Queen's Gambit scenes where McDermott's laying there in bed and he sees the X's and O's on the ceiling.
Williams and
that's perfectly fair. Yeah, a fair point by Will is like McDermott's a very good coach. Dable's a very, that's the offense obviously, but they have a good defensive coordinator. They have a good staff overall. They have a smart team. And so, it might come down to the changes that Andy Reid's going to make. Is it going to be 2 steps ahead of McDermott or 1 step ahead? Because if it's only 1 step ahead, it might not be a step ahead at all.
And I think Leslie Frazier was on the early Eagles teams with Andy Reid. I want to say he was 99 to 2002. So yeah, right.
I don't know where he was before Minnesota. I'm not sure.
It sounds like Andy Reid has a hell of a coaching tree.
It sounds like you have a giant bulletin board with all of these moves. Like I picture a Pepe Silva bulletin board with all the coaching tree moves. You nailed that.
He was the D-backs coach from 99 to 02 in Philly.
Well, and then I mean, this is off topic, but it is really crazy when you start thinking about it. Like Andy Reid's coaching tree is just a branch of Mike Holmgren's coaching tree, which is just a branch of Bill Walsh's coaching tree.
Like, very good.
It's crazy. But back to the
R.I.P. Dennis Green.
I know. What's all they were?
He was in that.
So if I'm Leslie Frazier and Sean McDermott, and McDermott's defenses dating back to his entire career have been linebacker heavy, and his defenses are at their best when he's got great linebackers. You had Luke Kuechly and Thomas Davis, and now you have Tremaine Edmonds and Matt Milano, and they haven't had a great season. I get it, but the Bills' defense has been much better since their bye, basically. I think the DVOA splits are like crazy, like 24 before and 7th after. If I think that Patrick Mahomes has a busted toe, and I'm watching that tape, and I think Patrick Mahomes can't run, and I know he's got 7 days to Mahomes is, how much work can you do on a foot or toe injury in the span of 6 days, right? I don't know that there's a lot.
If it's turf toe, it's not great. Like
exactly.
Those are lingering.
Yeah.
So I'm going to sell out and give Patrick Mahomes all the runs he wants. Sure. And I'm going to bracket Travis Kelce with Matt Milano and a safety. And I'm going to ask Tre'Davious White to hold up against Tyreek Hill as best he can in single coverage with maybe some help shaded over that way. And then be like, look, one of you mofos keep an eye on Mecole Hardman running across this formation. Because that's what Andy Reid did against last week is he really utilized the distraction of Tyreek Hill and the speed of Tyreek Hill to get Mecole Hardman open. I don't think Sammy Watkins is playing, so no revenge game angle here, right?
I don't think it's likely he could, but I doubt it. And then so you did Rook to Queen's Bishop there or whatever Q4, but and I'm just thinking like if I'm Andy Reid, I know that's not even a spot. I got to rewatch the show, I guess. But if I'm Andy Reid and I'm realizing like. They know my guy has a toe injury. They know we might not run, and we'll have to find something else.
But to your point, don't know. Like
it's such a
he is talking about.
I'm very excited to see. Yeah, that's the most exciting part of this game is to see what wrinkles Andy Reid is going to throw, and if they decide to say, "Hey, we're going to let you have this space for Patrick to run," can they fill that space with a back wheeling out? Can they fill that space with a tight end coming back? Some rub routes, some weird, a wheel where somebody's coming into these open spaces. You're going to leave these spaces to run. They're not just a space to run. They're an open spot in a zone.
Sure.
So it'll be really cool to see what happens because Christ, this could be a great back and forth between these two coaches for a long time.
But can we agree that the market expectation here that the Chiefs are going to get to 30 points is a little aggressive?
I think so.
The way they played lately, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Now the other thing here,
mm-hmm.
The Chiefs. How many? Do you know how? I don't know how many rush yards did the Ravens have last week? Sorry, I'm looking at it.
It was a lot. A lot.
So
like 178, 180. It was quite a few.
150 on the nose, actually.
Oh, okay.
I would expect more. But what's interesting about that is in the Bills. So the Bills lost 3 games, and then the game they beat the Rams in that crazy where they got a huge lead and then lost it and then won on that pass interference game, which was, and then the Chiefs game in which, so there are 3 losses, the Rams game plus the Colts playoff game. And now the Ravens playoff game, 6 total games, very close games. Even if you want to give them a 14-point lead against the Ravens, I think we can all agree that game was close.
Yes.
Yeah.
Only games of the season where they gave up 150 rush yards or more. And I don't want to get too much into rush yard correlation, but this is a smaller defensive interior line. You can run on them. If you're off,
teams have gashed them up the middle. Like just off guard shit is like 6 yards.
The Chiefs did it to him.
If I'm Andy Reid and I'm thinking like, all right, how can maybe you just set up trips on the left side. I'm just trying to think of but you just pound up the middle. You don't go condensed formations or anything. You spread out their defense,
spread the run,
and pound them up the middle.
Bang, 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 bang.
First half under a look here in a game with a really high total.
We haven't even mentioned Mr. Hilaire probably play. I think he plays. That could be your wrinkle. Like they haven't seen that guy. They haven't seen him in the offense for a couple weeks. Like how are they going to use him as he comes back? How healthy is he? All they're going to have is a little bit of film of him jogging in practice. Maybe that's your wrinkle is, CEH coming back and being a much bigger part of the offense than any of us are possibly factoring at the moment.
I'm with you though. Will 100% with you on first half under because honestly, I had an appetite. I've had an appetite all week. I've taken a little bite of the full game under at 54.
Yeah.
Some of that was maybe Mahomes doesn't go. Who knows? On Monday, right? Yeah. And then now that we know he's going to go, I'm not as interested because I can see a game state play out where Chiefs have a lead in the second half, and it's Josh Allen all of a sudden is throwing every single down, and he's got some weapons. And the Chiefs, oh, by the way, are missing their top 2 corners.
Yeah,
that's where chicken weight. Like if you do like an under, isn't it the same thing? Once Mahomes is announced in, the total's not going down.
I think it's 54. I think is static.
I think you could see a little bit of action. I'm not saying it's going to 57, but you could see it's certainly not going to go the other way. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no disadvantage to waiting on an under, like unless Mahomes doesn't play, and then I guess you really miss the boat.
Or my point though is I think I like the first half under better than the full game under because number one.
Yeah, but they're both
Spagnuolo is a great defensive coordinator, even without his horses in the secondary, 100%. They have fine. The replacement level players are fine, and it's going to take Josh Allen a half of football to kind of figure out what he's got. Right? It's not. This isn't going to be as easy as when they went up against say the Denver Broncos, and the Broncos had cluster injury at cornerback, and every single pass Allen threw was to a wide open dude. Like it's going to be a lot harder for them to move the ball, I think, early. But I think eventually they'll find their form. Eventually they're going to be, and especially if they're at a deficit, like it's going to be it's going to be high incentive for them to throw in the second half. I think the second half might be higher scoring, and it could probably take the full game over, which I think has got me zeroing in here on this first half under if I want to get more serious about an underplay in this game.
And we haven't had to see Josh Allen play on the road for many a week. It's been and this wasn't even really a game. It was an embarrassment in the, they got their 2 home games in the playoffs. They got their game week 17 hosting Miami, I believe. And then before that, it was Gillette. They went to Gillette and just pulled their fucking pants down.
Yeah,
that's the last time you saw him. That's the last time you saw this team on the road. There will be fans. There could be some. I mean, you can say they're both very young quarterbacks, but one is hosting. One's hosting his 3rd consecutive AFC title game. The other one is. This is a huge moment for him. Like he's composed himself very well, but again, it's been 2 games at home. And it's never been Patrick Mahomes on the other sideline.
And he has looked the last 2 games at least like I likened it going into Baltimore, and I thought it would happen. It just didn't. Sort of like an Incredible Hulk situation where he's like turnover Josh is in there, and he's like, come on, let me out.
He's dying to make it just an absolute boneheaded play.
No, please. 2 more games, man. Hold on. And like that Indy game.
You wouldn't like me when I'm loose with the ball.
Yeah. I also look back at I think you can kind of throw Baltimore out because it was the weather was so bad and he was stealing passes because of the wind, in my opinion. But
yes, agreed.
They really should have just had Buffalo at max 10 points in the first half against Kansas City, and I mean against Indianapolis. And I really think if the Colts scored,
if they don't jump off sides, it's 10 points.
Or if the Colts score a touchdown and kick off, I don't think the Bills get a touchdown. I think they probably get a field goal at best. I don't know. They were so they've been a little lethargic early on. Their second half numbers have been pretty good, so that would be a little concerning for that full game over. But I mean, it's hard for me to decide where I want to go on the side here. I do not want to bet. It's sort of the inverse of the Tampa Bay Green Bay game because I really don't want to bet against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid.
Definitely not if you're only getting 3.
Right. And
if you have a hunger for the Bills, there may be some very good live spots to take some Bills.
Sure.
Because we've seen it. We just talked about how many times they got freaking backdoored.
Yeah.
And you can say it's the playoffs. They have the good plays. Maybe that we don't see that. But this is a really good offense with a really good coaching staff and maybe the best receiver in football at some times. Like this is a team that's absolute. If you're gonna trade them, if they get down 14-3 and you're gonna trade them over 10, well, yeah, I'm gonna have some of that.
Absolutely.
Like, give me that. I'll take that. If they're down a touchdown and you're gonna give me even like an 8, 9.5 at certain points, like I'm probably gonna have some Bills live if Kansas City comes out hot.
Andy, do you think this closes at 3 or 3.5?
I think 3.5. I think it's going to bounce back and forth. I think it's going to be a juicy 3. It's going to be like 3 minus 20. I think 3.5 is going to get gobbled up because we've seen the market have enough hunger for Buffalo. Because if it gets to a flat 3.5 both ways, people are going to hit that. So I think it bounces back between a cheap 3.5 and a spendy 3.
Okay. All
Is,
right.
I do think the total takes up a point.
is there any chance that the market crashes on Sunday afternoon? And it's like
been doing this.
That's what I'm saying. It's on this, like the Chiefs went from 10 to 8. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, but that was correction to the correct number, in my opinion.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
At 3, I don't know who out there has a model that says this should be a pick. Do you?
I'm sure there's got to be somebody, but no.
I mean, if you're only using this year's data, maybe you see that. But if anyone who's doing this seriously is using priors, then they have Buffalo. They have a little seed in there of Buffalo's a 9-win team, and Kansas City is the
Super Bowl champ,
hands down favorite Super Bowl winner. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, I guess okay. So yeah, I mean, I still I think that the right way to play an actionable angle on Mahomes runs less in this game is under. I think first half under is probably the strongest.
Fewer third down conversions. More. I mean, it might be punts over.
Yeah, or just more rushes for the running backs. Which is
I think the punt number might come in low on this one, just because it's two prolific offenses, and we'll see what they have for a punt prop on this one.
Are we?
The game total is 50. I like the full game under, but I agree with you, Drew. It's like it is terrifying. You're in the third quarter. All of a sudden, these two teams like just go poof, poof, poof,
bang, bang, bang. Not unlike an AFC Championship game 2 years ago,
right?
Where Brady and the Patriots played keep away from Mahomes for the entire first half, and then there were infinity points scored in the second half.
Yeah, you can only play that game for a while. And somebody had a good article or tweet or something about how just like the keep away from Mahomes thing isn't a recipe for success.
All that.
No.
Yeah, the teams.
No,
the
it's
teams
definitely
that have beaten him. Have scored. They're all like there's the 119.
Only one example, and it was the Colts last year. That's the only team that did it.
Colts 2 years ago on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, that one with the one.
All those games they showed just teams. They're all 40.
Yeah. They were the one game when the Colts won 19-13, whatever year that was.
He was missing receivers, and he got banged up. That was like one game. So if you want to beat this team, you do have to score a shitload of points, or you might not win. So that's why I like the first half under much better than the full game, and I do think that's it's a derivative that'll tickle up too. I think
we're missing an entire game state that I just need your opinion on. What if? Okay. What if Buffalo comes in loose? What if Buffalo and their elite wide receivers
loose like Swagger?
Loose like, hey, like we were trying to be something we're not the last couple of games. We were going up against the defense in the cover 2 that the Bills were running. That the Colts were running that we weren't really familiar with, and we didn't look great. And then in the win last week just totally took us out of our game plan. What if they come into this game and they're feeling comfortable and they're going up against the defense in the Chiefs that has cluster injury at the cornerback position, and they move the ball effortlessly and score points early and often and put pressure on this Chiefs team to answer? Like, does that change your opinion of just the entire game state? Do the Chiefs
You're losing your first step under?
Yeah, of course. But like, is that a realistic? Is that something that we could see?
That might be the best version of this game.
Oh, absolutely, it's the best version of this game.
So we saw that. We saw it 3 times last year.
Yeah.
We didn't see it this year because the Chiefs came out and did that march down the field against Cleveland, and Cleveland wasn't ready for Cleveland wasn't ready for that stage.
No, and Chiefs didn't punt last week, which is hysterical to me.
No, and though they didn't cover in these games because of how they played the end of the games, they went to Tampa Bay, they went to New Orleans. They beat those teams convincingly. They let some backdoor, semi-meaningless scores in. The way they matched up and the way they game planned for Baltimore was maybe the most impressive game of the season. Up to that point, for sure. Like, holy crap, they kicked them in the mouth here. Like, they have the capability. It's just we've seen them. I don't know what was the second half of the season where they were the malaise. We were confused by the malaise for many a week.
Well, one other thing I think is kind of important too is that Andy Reid is not a F your face. I'm going to run this score up.
Yeah, sure, for sure.
In the regular season situation. Now, for a long time, he was also that way he would just get really conservative in the playoffs. I do kind of wonder, and I've had this theory for 9 months now or whatever, but like when Phil Mickelson won his first major, it took the monkey up the back and he just started ripping off majors because it was like now the only thing he cares about is the U.S. Open. That's the only thing that gives him butterflies in the stomach. Like, I mean, otherwise this guy's out here betting $1 million on whatever. He doesn't give a shit. And I signed a Ultra flag right there.
Ooh, nice.
Practice flag, not the real one. But signed by Phil. I think that might be where Andy Reid is, where he's not coaching with this concern about winning a title anymore because he's got one. I mean, like that 4th down call with Henne is, to throw that with 5 seconds left on the clock, where like you're probably losing if you don't get that. That was balls. And I think that old Andy Reid might have punted that. And I just sort of wonder if we're underestimating how loose he'll be as a play caller.
That's not crazy. How about the fact that the Bills in general come out with a good script and score points early?
I think
I'm talking myself out of this under. I think I might just pass this game and bet it out.
It's a scary ass under.
But I think if you look, and I got myself all the way to 2019 on NFL Jesus, so hold on a second while I get back. But I think if you look at the Chiefs last week, first half drives, 10, 7, 13, and 9 in terms of number of plays. I mean, that is eating some clock up, right?
Yes.
As the Bills, as we pointed out, they have been explosive, but it's tough to look at the Baltimore game and really determine anything just because
100% throw it out.
Yeah. That's sort of where I'm at on that one. Against the Colts, they had 3, 8, 3, 3, 10.
Yeah.
And the threes resulted in punts.
Yeah.
So this is a team that I'm not scared of that first half under. I don't think the Bills will be. I think the Bills will be a little more cautious because while they know they have to score, they do want to. I don't think they're just going to come out and just take 3 shots to Stephon Diggs. But maybe I'm wrong.
Okay. I guess I wonder though if the coverage is a problem for Kansas City. I don't know. You Breland out for sure.
I think
I'm not sure on that one. There is something to be said on how their defense is able to play with a lead, though. Like it masks some of the inefficiencies to that defense. How you are allowed to play when you are able to get out to a lead when the offense is playing well. So I mean, it's 2 defenses that we're not high on, but your defensive game plan is different when you're up by a score or 2.
Yeah, okay, I guess Breland and Fenton were both LP today. I think that's gamesmanship. I don't think they go. And then
I don't know. It sounds like Robert Blair and Sammy Watkins might go.
It does sound like they might go. Yeah, I agree with that.
Big deal. I think Andy is going to come out and run the football against Buffalo's front and try and kind of just. Because to me, if I'm a coach, if I'm Andy Reid, and I want to put the Bills in the worst possible position,
yes,
it would be to get down 14-0 early in the second quarter, where the Chiefs have had 2
long methodical. You don't belong here drives,
and the Bills go 3 and out one time, and all of a sudden the Chiefs have eaten up the whole quarter, and it's like Josh Allen's touching the ball for the second time, and that's when the Hulk is like. You want to make him press, and they haven't. Nobody, the Colts and the Ravens failed in their attempts to make him do that by botching the thing at the end of the first half and just not playing particularly well.
That's a good point as far as where the bad Josh Allen could reappear. If he does feel like, man, they took a lot of clock, they scored. Look where we're at. We haven't done anything yet. And then he feels like he has to do too much. And the moment is a little too big for him. And then you get him throwing a lateral straight up in the air while he's falling down, or you get him throwing a bad pass into missing just wanting to hit a certain read so bad that he misses a linebacker. He fails to account for somebody underneath. He fails to account for a safety that's coming in over the top. Like he makes a bad read, and I not push back on that, but full fair play. Pat has had some bad reads over the last half of the season. He has made some bad throws. He's made some bad throws in the red zone. That's kind of scared me. That's hopefully he's washed that of his, and he's fully focused on this, because it's not just something you've seen, as much.
Well, defenses are playing him differently. They're trying to take away the home run. They're not blitzing. And I think that's circulated around the league. I think D coordinators have kind of all picked up on that. That's not a surprise anymore. That you can't blitz them. Yeah. If Les Frazier comes out with a plan where we're blitzing Mahomes in this game, I'm turning the television off. I am not watching this game.
At the Chiefs.
Yeah, you
although the foot injury, does that affect
the same?
Does the foot injury affect his production against the blitz?
Is he able to roll out as effectively and hit home runs? I think you need safeties, and you need too high. I don't think
I really want to see him practicing. I want to see footage of him running around to make me feel better.
The other thing too, and I know that this is the longest podcast in the world, but you invited me on. And
that's very good.
That's good. Yeah. The Bills are now 6 of 22 on third down in the playoffs. They don't really have any business being. I mean,
why aren't they using Allen more on the ground?
I don't know.
Why aren't they why have they not they just haven't discovered or figured that out, or it hasn't manifest yet? Because Allen, same exact way that Mahomes figured it out last year in the playoffs. I feel like it's there for Allen if he wants it.
Well, he had 7 rushes for 3 yards against the Ravens.
It was awful, and none of them looked comfortable. None of them looked like that was the plan. That was like plan C or plan D. Yeah. That was like the Hulk going, I got to make something happen, And he was about ready to fumble it for minus 50 yards.
Joe Judge has figured it out. I don't understand why this other, why they can't figure out. Great point. Like rushing
Jason
quarterback.
Garrett. Jason Garrett's got it.
Garrett has figured this out, for Christ's sake. There are designed runs that work really well when you have a quarterback who can execute them, and they do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Mahomes got hurt on a designed run. That was a design. Okay. He screwed everybody with that first touchdown. Well, not everybody. Some people had him. I had Darrell Williams down at the 1. But I mean, if the Bills don't play better than they have the last 2 weeks, they'll get their doors blown off.
Yeah, I completely agree. Absolutely. I'm counting on them doing it if I'm betting the Bills, and I'm not sure I'm going to at this point. And actually, to put a bow on this game, Andy, you took KC -3.
Yep.
Right now, I have a little bit of under 54. I'm thinking of adding some more first half under, but I have been hesitant to really pull the trigger on this one. If I see Bills at 3.5 or better in game at say 7, then I'm definitely interested. Bills is a teaser leg, open teaser leg. Anyone?
It's a big total. It's scary.
Okay.
Road team. I mean, especially
cover teaser like that. A wild flip, man.
Yeah, every teaser leg is just covering, except Baltimore.
Yeah, thanks.
What are you teasing? What do you tease? Just open and find like an NBA game.
Open and put the Packers in the Super Bowl.
Packers in the Super Bowl, yeah.
Ooh. So Packers
get them to 8.5. Get them out to 8.5 if it's Packers.
Yeah, Packers +2 out to 8.
I think. Do you think the Packers would be +2 against the Chiefs? Is that what the line is?
That'd be my guess. It's probably up actually.
Probably.
Bookheads that don't reflect that, but I think that's what the actual game would be.
Yeah,
I think it would be. I think you could get 3, so you get to 9.
Packers out to 9.
Rodgers +9. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, Bills this week. Packers Super Bowl. Interesting. You have an early lean on the Super Bowl? If it's let's put the Packers.
Oh my god! I mean, see, the problem is then you have Mahomes has 2 weeks, and Andy
he'll be 100%. Yeah. Chiefs repeat. I think, although the first quarter over would be interesting there.
because
yeah,
very good.
yeah. Absolutely. A couple
Somebody
interesting
said
notes.
that it is Chiefs 2 minus Packet bet online.
That sounds okay.
That-
My guess is regardless. So that's probably going to go. I will see. If I'm thinking the Packers are going to cover this game, so I don't think you ever see a pick against the Chiefs, though. No way. Okay, so couple interesting notes. The never, last time we've had an MVP win the Super Bowl was, Will, do you know off the top of your head?
Well, the last 10 have lost, I think, right?
More than the last 10.
The last time we had an MVP win the Super Bowl?
I know the answer, so I'll abstain.
I'm trying to run through the list of MVPs. No, I mean, what decade is it?
1999.
That's a year.
Well, it was the 90s.
Yeah.
So is it you're saying it was 99 or was
it was 99? Yeah.
It was former Iowa Barnstormer.
Who's the 99? Oh, Warner.
Kurt Warner. And the St. Louis Rams
MVP and regular season MVP, right?
Yeah. It's been a while. Doesn't shade my opinion of the Packers winning the Super Bowl because it's not a meaningful stat, I don't think. But it's wild that we haven't seen it in so long. If we're leaning Chiefs for the Super Bowl of the Packers, any reason not to get involved in Pat Mahomes MVP 3-1 right now?
That is very takeable because that is if the Chiefs win this game. Regardless of the opponent, Mahomes is then minus 125.
Yeah. And the Chiefs are minus 160-ish money line in the Super Bowl. And the Chiefs win the Super Bowl as anyone besides Mahomes in the running.
Nah. People tried. Yeah, people tried to get the running back over the hump via tweeting about it a lot in the last one. And it just felt like they can't do it.
Kelsey can't stand out enough. Tyreek Hill can't stand out enough. They're not going to vote for Tyreek Hill anyway.
It's just because you got here's the thing about Super Bowl MVP that you got to remember, and I don't think people think about this enough. So, I don't know if it's an inside nugget, but how the voting goes, right? So we're all
which team won? Which team was the quarterback of the winning team? That's the vote.
But there's even a little more nuance to it because we're all the media are in the Super Bowl in the press box of the Super Bowl, and it's the middle of the fourth quarter. And the game is sort of up in the air and you don't know, last year, you don't know what's going to happen. And there's a group of, I don't vote for it, but there's a group of 25 or 40 people or 50 people, whoever it is, who are distributed ballots and they have to. And so this is not their full-time job. So the amount of time that is going into this vote is extremely negligible.
Wow.
So you're thinking about the game, but if it's anything remotely these guys are trying to write stories on deadlines for newspapers and you have to leave the press box with 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter, thereabouts, to get on the elevator to go to the interview rooms where you watch the rest of the game on the TV if you decide to do that. So some of these guys have to do that. So they're you're I haven't seen the ballot, but I mean you're basically scribbling in a name at the last second and throwing to him. And that's why it's always the quarterback, unless it's the Rams Patriots where you're didn't Edelman won, right? Where it's it's Christ, Goff has been awful. Brady's been awful.
Yeah. You need a 16-point game like that where there's no scoring. Yeah.
Right. Or you need a 24-21 Chiefs win over the Packers and Kelsey has 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Right. It's something very specific.
I'm telling you, these guys, the time at that point of the press box, the energy is very rushed and hurried. They're over the loudspeaker. If you want to go down to the locker rooms, you must assemble by the elevator now. And it'll be different this year because there's only going to be 68 people total in the press box, which is crazy low in Tampa. Usually it's several hundred. And there's just this insane, it's a newsroom energy, going crazy. And these guys are just trying to get the votes in as quick as they can. And when in doubt, anything close, just give it to the quarterback of the winning team.
Yeah. No, and that's what I mean. The game against the Niners. That was as I pulled up live betting because everyone would say, "Well, they've done it. Should we just bet it again? Should we bet them to win the game?" And I was scrolling, and they had live MVP odds, and Patrick Mahomes live to win the MVP was a bigger number than the Chiefs to win the game. I'm well. And not by a lot. I mean, it wasn't like some factor of, it was just maybe like 50 cents better. I'm like, well, I'm just going to bet that instead because I'm not going crazy with this. And so the people that were stumping for the running back, I'm like, that's asinine. That's still, give it to Patrick, because I'd have been pissed if I got too cute with it. They win the game and I don't win my MVP bet.
But you got to, again, like everybody who's doing the voting is tweeting and writing and rewriting and watching the game and like talking to their coworkers about like who's writing which storyline. And so like their fifth thing on their plate is the MVP vote. Whereas if you're at home watching on Twitter and debating it, you're like, well, if you look at the EPA added by Darrell Williams here, and they're like, no one there gives a shit. They are knocking out that vote.
Yeah. No. They're waiting there with their hand check over Mahomes. And if some defensive player for the Niners makes a game-changing play at the end of the game, then they switch. That was exactly how they're doing that. Okay.
The only time we've seen a defensive player win in the last few years was Von Miller, which no brainer.
Warranted.
Yeah, I mean, it was a low-scoring game. Malcolm Smith won because the Legion of Boom obliterated Peyton, and nobody just had to pick the guy with the best stats.
That was so fun.
Awful Super Bowl.
That was so fun.
I took the elevator down early because it was a blowout to go to the interview rooms, and we're standing there watching, and that was the New York Super Bowl. And so, a little spooked about, big event in New York.
Yeah. True.
And I was sitting down in the interview room and we're watching the game on TV and it's like 40, like a minute and a half left. And all of a sudden fireworks start going, or like not fireworks, these loud booms. I'm like, we're being attacked. And then I realized it's fireworks because the game's on a tape delay that we're watching. And the game.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, we'll wrap here. Thank you so much for your time. This was incredibly fun as I had hoped. And, really love your insight and, enjoy the coming off season. I know how fun it is. We're so close to the finish line, man.
We joked we wouldn't do a 2-hour podcast because
we joked we wouldn't do a 3-hour podcast. We just
before we said like, well, this one won't be as long as last week's because there's two games. Here we are longer.
It was fun though. No,
it was a ton of fun.
Nature abhors a vacuum. That's
I'm gonna go binge like 3 more episodes of The Wire season 3.
Ooh,
and on my couch, and my wife will accuse me of being a ne'er-do-well for the 45th day in a row.
You know what?
More wine.
I love it, man. You're making the most of your pandemic time. I appreciate that. I give you all the credit in the world. Thank you again. Best of luck as always, and we'll absolutely circle back and try to touch base this off season and figure out what's going to happen in 2021.
All right, fellas.
All right. Good job. Looks great.
Look at him. He's still just drinking wine.
I know. Well, what did you have, by the way? What did you open? I'm about to go open a wine. You've inspired me.
He's dipped on mute.
Oh, he's muted. Can I unmute him?
Well, you got to unmute. It mutes you during the music.
Yeah. You got to unmute yourself.
It's a shitty.
I thought I muted myself in my house. It's a shitty Pinot from Oregon.